The flags representing the 54 federations entered in these 29th World Gymnastic Championships.
And exclusive pictures over the next 5 hours as we take a look at the second day's qualification for the individual apparatus finals, which will be contended this coming weekend. And there is one of the young stars to appear. The Chinese have had a good day yesterday, as have the Americans, and yesterday's qualification for the first 2 apparatus for the women and the first 3 for the men was full of surprises, highs and lows for some of the world's top performers. Well,
get geared up psychologically, and they're straight in and onto apparatus, and really a tall order for beam. That's when the adrenaline is high and breathing isn't easy. But remember, this is individual, so many people fighting for places, and the battle is so closely fought. Yesterday there were literally hundreds of points between performers, weren't there?
And it's an individual competition, but a poor performance in any one of the 4 or 6 apparatus for the women and the men could psychologically affect 1 or 2 of the less experienced competitors in the all-around competition. They're the 2 days of competition that are coming up on Thursday and Friday, and that's when the points are added together from all 4 apparatus for the women and all 6 for the men. And Monica, a poor performance on the beam today is the vault, the parallel bars and the high bar. And for those of you viewing in the United Kingdom, it was not a bad day for Britain's Neil Thomas in his floor quest. For those of you that follow the sport, you will know that Neil is the UK's most successful gymnast, claiming a silver medal in the World Championships on the floor last year in Birmingham. Monica, any feeling?
He didn't do his personal best and still managed to come into the top 8. So really, it's not always how well you do, it's how badly others do. So there is a chance, a very strong chance. He's a great gymnast, got some good execution qualities, but he'll be hard pushed, I think, to beat Sherbo and Korobczynski.
Well, let's hope that Neil Thomas has saved his best for the final. And just to give you a quick rundown on the day's action, Thursday and Friday from 8 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. That's Central European time. We will be bringing you the all-around competition, Thursday for the men, Friday for the women. And then the finals of these qualifications, which we've watched yesterday and today, are held over the weekend. And both myself and Monica will be with you live on Saturday, 11:30 till 2:30 p.m. and 10 till 12:30 p.m. for those individual apparatus finals. So a real feast of artistic gymnastics live on Eurosport up until the weekend, as today we will now be focusing on the Magic 8, as we have nicknamed them, the 8 finalists who can qualify for the individual apparatus final. And the tension starts immediately. Shannon Miller, the all-around world champion, to the beam to get this morning's action underway.
And this is a really tough draw for Shannon. But remember how experienced she is. She's been on the USA senior team for 4 years. And looking very, very steady, very cool indeed. And that tiny little 360-degree spin causes so much aggro to the gymnasts. One big tumbling series out of the way. Flick to handstand pirouette. The gymnasts have got 1 minute and 30 seconds on the beam to demonstrate to the judges their efficiency on beam. And it must include combinations of gymnastic skills, which actually are dance movements, like we've just seen, the leap combination of acrobatic skills, series of the 2 mixed together. Full in, back out, and I think that she'll heave quite a hefty sigh of relief. But in saying that, the wobble on her full spin would have been enough to deprive her of a championship. It very much depends on what the others produce from now on.
Well, Shannon Miller, America's most successful gymnast of all time, a silver medalist in the beam in the Barcelona Olympic Games. Disappointment for Miller yesterday in the asymmetric bars, where she was pushed out of the Magic 8, the qualifiers for the final. She was finished in 9th position there, but had a respectable performance and finish in the vault, where Shannon Miller was 4th. But as we were discussing earlier, Monica, she doesn't seem to be like in any kind of the form that she came to Birmingham with, or the Olympic Games. She sets the pace, first position, 9.825, and that's a healthy score.
Very good, very high standard to start, and it puts the gymnasts who are following right under pressure. But I think that'll calm down her nerves and probably make up for yesterday's performance. Of course, we mustn't be too hard on Shannon. She is a brilliant gymnast, an absolutely magnificent performer, and perhaps on bars
the floor, and the first of the floor, and this is possibly one of the most popular apparatus to be seen on the television, along with the beam, and it's China. Mo Hulian, disappointed in the asymmetric bars yesterday, 24th position there, so she's looking to impress and make the cut in this, her last opportunity of the championships.
But without the fall, she would have been in the #1 spot. Powerful opening. Full in, back out. Good link of tumbles there, whip back, twisting salto. Oh, nice handspring, Rudy. Not many women can do that. And that jump combination, high scoring also. She needs a big finish. She's only 14. Powerful tumbler. First major championship. And finishing with a full in, back out. Brilliant work from 14-year-old Hulan Mao. And she doesn't look too perturbed at all. It's interesting to see that the Chinese physically have changed. Very powerful legs. At one time they had all the elegance in the world, were brilliant on bars, but just lacked on the vaulting and tumbling skills, but they've obviously been doing their homework on them.
Getting into the Magic 8 once again. Yelena Pizgun of Belarus on the beam. Yelena, who enjoyed yesterday's action and managed to finish in 3rd position in the vault. So good championships for her so far. She's chasing Shannon Miller's 9.825.
It's amazing that the gymnasts, despite the beam cover being made of a suede fabric, always feel that they need that little bit of chalk to prevent the sweating. A sign that she's a little bit anxious. But these gymnasts have got to make their anxiety work for them on the beam. That could have been dangerous. Front somersault, which is a D-valued element, but the wobble would be very costly to her. Full twisting flick to chest, which is called a roof over after its innovator. Oh, nice. What a shame. Flick to 2, full twisting back somersault of the highest category difficulty, but of course losing up to 3/10 for that big wobble on the landing. So it was really, for her, hardly worth performing. Double backpike exit, not living up to the difficulty of Shannon Miller's full in back out, and she stayed on, but she had two big wobbles, and I'm sure that that won't be good enough to get her in the top 8. Powerful gymnast, well executed dismount, and if we get a close look at the middle tumble on beam, it was really good.
Well, the youngster from China, Mo Hulian, has gone into first position.
Another nice, highly landed front mount from Vanessa Baglietti from Argentina. But again, a wobble. Concentration went. She looked online. Flick layout, flick layout. And it's really hard to get 4 acrobatic skills on that beam. 16 feet long, 4 inches or 10 centimeters wide. And it's the incidental leaps, which viewers may look upon as incidental, as gap fillers, but in actual fact they are the ways in which the judges discriminate between the world's best gymnasts, because the excellent gymnasts have good acrobatic skills and excellent gymnastic skills. There's one of the combinations, a leap into a backflip. And all the little chalk marks along the side of the beam, they're all the start points for dismounts. One only hopes they pick the right one. Arab spring double tuck. Step back, costs a 10.
Yana Puskun there, 5th position in the beam, 9.400, so she stays within the qualifiers. But again, we'll have...
Eagerly awaiting the score for her beam. Baglietti from Argentina, and there it is, 8.775. A fall after her acrobatic series and a large wobble after her mount cost her dearly.
Oksana Fabrichinova of Russia, number 386. Chasing still Shannon Miller, who leads in this qualification for the individual apparatus finals. 9.825. Can afford to go as low as 9.2 to stay within the magic 8, but that's only so far. Early days in this women's qualification.
And they're all having rather a nervous start on those front mounts. But Fabrichinova, a fine gymnast, she really did steal the hearts of the crowd at Birmingham. But already she's established rather a negative attitude to the judges from the mount. Pulled herself together well. But a beautiful stylist. And just to prove that I can land it, she does it again. And the gymnasts are allowed to put in the same element twice, providing it's in a different combination. Positive spin. Good amplitude there on the second split in the leap, and the horizontal leg of the jump where one leg is bent and the other leg straight out in front. Full in, back out. What a pity about the mount. Some beautiful work. Positive, well-extended legs, and very interesting choreography.
Fabrichinova, who was 6th in the World Champion final a year ago in Birmingham, and bar that little error at the beginning, seems to be on target to qualify for the top 8.
Yes, and from Arkaev's smile when she came off the apparatus, he obviously isn't expecting her to win. This is one of the competitions she's in for experience. If he had believed that she could take the title. High bar routine without any problem.
Oksana Kuznik next to the beam, last of this rotation 1, subdivision B.
Kuznik. Oh, beautiful jump. That is really difficult because the back leg has to bend, and for a fraction of a second the gymnast is totally out of sight from the beam. Demands an awful lot of courage and skill to produce that jump. Oh, 3 layouts, brilliant stuff. If she goes like this, I think Shannon Miller's first place could go. Brilliant amplitude in the split elements, all of the leaps well beyond the split. Already in the vault final. Well, there's a name to remember. Kuznik, wonderful gymnast, produced an excellent performance. One step back on the mount, her Arab spring straight back. Didn't quite anchor it, but very positive and beautiful. Here the acrobatic skill series in the middle, a flick-flack into 3 layouts, and the only thing she didn't have was a really difficult dismount, a full in back out. That's where Shannon Miller scored above her, but the rest of the routine in my book beat Shannon Miller.
Well, Fabrichinova goes into 3rd position with 9.612, as Kuznik needs to score 9.825 or above to...
Eurosport Live.
Big names, the ones that we're looking forward to seeing here on the floor. Shannon Miller. We're still hoping to bring you the score to return at the weekend to compete for World Championship medals.
Kathy, a newcomer to the Australian team. Flick to handstand and half turn to chest roll. I think an interesting observation to mention, which will help the viewers to discriminate between the excellent and the very good, is that the judges look out for pace on beam. The faster they move on that beam, the more competent they are. And to be critical of Kathy's performance so far, it's rather deliberate. Lacks pace. The second 3-skilled back acrobatic tumble she's had, so she's doing well for difficulty. Double twist dismount, clean, lacking in variation of tempo, and undisputedly good quality work, but really she doesn't have a chance of making that top 8. Her difficulty isn't adequate in comparison to Kiznik's 3 layouts, and the double twist can't compare with full-in backouts.
As the youngster from Australia awaits her scoring, 9th position, 9.187. So there are a lot of the top quality or world-class beam gymnasts still to come, but still she'll be quite pleased, I feel, with that result so far in the competition, Monica.
Yes, and it's her international debut. Obviously, a tall, rather lean gymnast, not having fulfilled her maximum strength at the moment. Angle.
Yelena Piskun of Belarusia to the floor. 12th in the asymmetric bars yesterday, but very pleased with her performance in the vault, where she came in 3rd. Two and a half twist, and they whip back. Powerful tumbler. Good jump combination across the centre of the floor, but rather poor choreography into the corner for a gymnast of her calibre. And finishing with a forward tumble, but a very high-valued forward tumble, a handspring, layout front, with 1.5 twist at the end. A Piskun finalist in the '93 World Championships, due undisputedly to her powerful tumbling and not to her gymnastic dance elements. And that, the big tumble, 1.5 twisting, straight front to finish. She was just outside the medals a year ago in Birmingham. She came in 4th position there. Seemed to enjoy her work yesterday and seems to have done enough. Yu Uk-reol of Korea, 9.6 lead, and 2nd position for Yelena Piskun, 9.600 in the women's floor. So it's all starting to heat up now in this 2nd rotation.
Badrati. Badrati. far, very good musical interpretation from Platterati. But of course, that 10th out of the floor on the start. A heavy deduction, double whip, double twist, and good interpretation for the music. Gymnasts can't stop more than 2 seconds in the corner before their tumbles. Lacking variety in the tumbles to really make the big time. She needs pull-in back outs, multiple twisting and multiple somersaults. Finished on a triple twist, but just really squeezed it around the corner from 2.5. There's the whip-whip or whip-flick combination. Double twist in the middle of the routine. And that's the triple twist at the end, but really it was more like 2.5 with half spin on the end. And that'll cost him 3/10. Fabrichnova on floor. Sorry, Kochetkova went by the physique and the leotard and not the face. Very similar. Difficult combination, handspring, full twisting front, straight front in the middle there. And a big tumble to finish, pull him back out. Well, in the women's code of points, it states categorically that an exercise lacking artistry throughout has a penalty of 2/10. And according to that rule, so far, she is 2/10 above any performer we have seen so far. Wonderful gymnastic elements, strong tumbles, their handspring, full twisting front, tap front. Good backward and forward variety of skills. Half in, half out. That's a full twist and a double back. And that's the final tumble. And to produce that at the end of 1 minute and 30 seconds, the gymnast has to be fifth. Platterati, only 8.812.
We'll now wait. Disappointment for the silver medalist in the parallel bars as we go back to the beam for Romania, Gina Gojea. Bronze medalist a year ago in Birmingham.
And she's off. But what a trick to fall off on. Full twisting back somersault on beam. Pretty daunting. In my day, I was only contemplating it on floor. Georgian silver medalist in the 93 World All-Rounds. And there's quite a domestic battle between Milicevic and Gogian. And I think that Milicevic will be after her blood after having her seen fall from the apparatus. Because Milicevic did not like being beaten by her in the all-around event in 93 at Birmingham. the flick combination. These incidental links on beam look so simple, but they really do take so much work. Very time-consuming to learn and master. And the three-skill series finishing with a double back, but she's out of it because of the fall after her full twisting somersault.
The bronze medalist of a year ago in this individual apparatus, the beam seems to be out of the Magic 8 in 1994, and that's very disappointing for Gina Kosian. She was in great form yesterday, runner-up in the vault. That's not going her way in the beam.
The dismount, flick to one, flick to two, double back. But I would have liked to have seen the overhead view of the skill which caused her to fall, but it really is of astounding difficulty.
Well, there's a first shock in the floor, rightly pointed out by Monica Phelps, as the leader changes. Dina Kochikova, 1.687, steals the lead away from Mo Hulan of China, which really does keep that competition wide open for the 8 gymnasts to qualify for the final. We'll also
in the early stages that artistry and good tumbling are winning. You see, not a chance. 9.3 in 10th place, well out of it, and not really much psychological benefit towards the all-around event. But she's tough, and she'll just have to forget it and go back to the office, into the gym this afternoon, and train a little harder.
And it's interesting that you note it will be very pleasing to see how that motivates Lena Milicevic, her teammate. But let's go back to the floor, and the most exciting competition by far of this morning's qualification rounds. And Shannon Miller, she's leading the beam, and now let's see how the world champion can master her floor exercise.
And she really was a worthy winner of the gold medal at Birmingham in the individual apparatus on floor. But she really has to go some to retain that title. Her tumbling has to be sound. Her gymnastic skills have to be not only neat and precise, but high. And she isn't the most powerful of gymnasts. You can see by the size of her calf and lower leg, although that's not always indicative of power. In Miller's case, I'm sure I'm right. And she's carrying a few more pounds. She's grown up from a whippet into a fully fledged sort of greyhound this year. But still looking fit, and she's busy psyching herself up for the landings, because the landing skills are so important. The penalties on landing can go up to 4/10 this year on the new code. That's the Bible of gymnastics. Every 4 years it's updated.
Well, Shannon Miller claimed 2 goals in the individual competition a year ago in the World Championships in Birmingham, and one was in the floor, which she's now about to try and re-qualify for in 94, and one was in the asymmetric bars. And it was the asymmetric bars that gave Shannon Miller her biggest disappointment so far in these World Championships, coming in 9th position. She'll put that behind her now, and let's see if the world floor and all-around champion can recapture the form of a year ago.
Oh, it was superb. So neat right across the floor. And she's gone one better, worked out of the Rudy. That's a handspring, 1.5 twisting front into the flick. This routine is so well trained. She's worked so hard. Little bit of a crisis there, but a good tumble. She's outwitted everybody so far on both the artistry and the acrobatic skills. Beautiful exercise. I really can't see the judges failing to see that that is the very best we've seen so far. But of course, we've got Milosevic to come.
A defending world champion in sparkling form once again, this 17-year-old from Edmond in Oklahoma, the United States of America's most successful all-time gymnast, 5 world championship and 5 Olympic medals, and with that kind of performance, well, number 6 could well be on the way.
The control on that spin was excellent, right up on the toe. Full twisting, flick-flack, the last element, and then the leap combination into the spin. So very precise. And she isn't a natural dancer. That can be seen, despite the ballet training she's had, despite the work she's put in. A lot of...
Clear first, and that it is. 9.787 for Miller, who now leads in both the beam and the floor, with Supala for Hungary going into first position in the high bar. That brings us to the end of the second rotation. Cognio, the 3-2-2, chasing Shanna Miller. Balance on the stall.
Yes, so many gymnasts can produce a front somersault mount, but how many of them actually stick it? 2 wobbles to start on the side leap and the front. The pauses and preparations, although they are considered concentration pauses on beam, have become so expected that they've now become acceptable. And I'm looking forward to the day where a gymnast can go through a beam routine without the long pauses for concentration, so that their acrobatic skills have more of a surprise element to them. Cosno had a nervous start, and she really has never regained her composure. That is a technical fall. She had to hold onto the beam to prevent her from coming off, so it would be equal to a fall. Double back after a very nervous exercise. She's probably performed the exercise dozens of times in the gym without any wobbles, but the pressure of the day got to her, and sympathy is needed. Nobody will be more about it than her, so it's no good the coach getting anxious with her.
Worthwhile, or a worthy note that Mary Lou is a French-Canadian from Quebec. That's the reason for communication in French between coach and gymnast. Shanna Miller leads the qualification round, and of course qualification is one thing, that the final can possibly and easily be a completely different story. Shanna Miller was in exactly the same position a year ago in Birmingham. She led the qualification of the beam, well, with emphatic style, one has to say. She was so clear of the rest of the field, but come the day of the final, the nerves got the better of her, and she ended up in 8th position, last of the finalists. So the goal for many is to get into the top 8, but then the goal changes very quickly indeed when that final comes around at the weekend. And Cosino, 23rd position for the Canadian. As we go to Austria now, Rusha Kuril.
Few Austrian female gymnasts appear on the international circuit, especially at world level. Oh, very nice. very positive. Not only did she do the front, but she walked out and put a jump on the end of it. It'd be nice to see one of these lesser nations appear in the final. Aerial cartwheel, C element, elements on beam and floor, and bars are valued A, B, C and D. And in this championship the women have to produce 2 Ds, 1 C and 3 B elements. So far, an extremely competent exercise, lacking in the very high difficulty. Yes, I would suggest that that was just a little bit of a stressful dismount for her. A little bit out of her league almost by the way she attempted it, but the rest of the routine, 10 out of 10 for effort. And what a brilliant debut for her.
Well, a new name to World Championship competition, and as Monica Phelps pointed out, a very brave and focused performance from the young Austrian girl. Still to see any members of the Austrian team from both the men's and the women's side qualify for any of the individual finals. It really would be something special if Russia had just done enough to possibly claim a 7th or 8th position.
Well, that is the best female gymnast I've seen out of Austria for many years. We haven't got biographical information on her, but I would guess she's around about 15.9062. She'd be quite heavily penalised on the dismount.
Guo Ya of China. We've seen 1 or 2 surprises from the Chinese camp, especially in the asymmetric bars from Liu Li, a newcomer to World Championship, claiming 1st position in yesterday's qualification. Well, let's see if China has found yet another young superstar.
Arab string straight to 1. We've seen Li Yifang, Yang Bo, Li Li, some absolutely superb Chinese gymnasts. Split jump into front, good combination. Perfect physique. Aerial walkover with wonderful extension of the legs. But I would suspect those two were intended to be linked if the aerial walkover had gone well. Good leap combination, change leg split into ring leap. Double back pike. Certainly excellent, but I wouldn't put it in the superb category when we compare gymnasts like Li Li and Yang Bo. But in saying that, each one of those gymnasts has lacked consistency. And I think the Chinese may have gone not to produce the greatest beam routine ever, but to produce a consistent gymnast. there for the double back pike. A D, but not an E dismount. And that's where the leaders so far have scored up. Full in, back out. That's a full twisting double back.
Guo Yao waits very patiently to see whether she has done enough. Very difficult for the gymnasts in these World Championships. As we pointed out earlier, the qualification coming before the all-around competition, making it a very open and fair event. An unfamiliar format for many, and 9.725, that's second position behind Shannon Miller of the United States of America, and young Guo Yao will be delighted with that performance and score. And the action continues, and last in this fourth and final rotation, the B subdivision for the women is Chiara Ferrazzi of Italy.
I noticed yesterday that Brett brings out rather a ferocious look on her face, looking at the apparatus with contempt. Full twisting backflip, which really didn't happen. Nice combination though. But every little murmur on beam, every extra arm movement, extra body movement, extra wobble is penalized, right down to 0.5. Flick into Tuck Corbett. She's been on that spot without producing anything for over the required limit of 2 seconds, so even the standing still, doing not a lot in particular, will cost her. Wherever possible, every movement on beam should be an element, or a scoring element. And all of the gestures should be necessary and artistic. Tuck back. A very good recovery there from Ferrazzi. She had a poor dismount because she totally was offline with the beam, and because she was coming in straddle, she really had to avoid landing on it to avoid injury. So she not only had the fall, but she lost the whole value of the mount. Just lets you know just how narrow that beam is. Not much wider than the white marking down the centre of the road.
The 1992 Summer Olympic Games. Certainly housing many an enjoyed spectator. Every ticket sold from tomorrow onwards. Full house right the way through until Sunday's individual apparatus finals. Well, Ferrazzi will not have made the top 8 due to that misfortune at the beginning. 22nd position, 8.812. It is a World Championships. We expect the best, and only the best will qualify for the Magic finalists, or Magic 8. Just one more, it seems, 2 more possibly, floor exercises. Shannon Miller leads both the floor and the beam exercise, and Gina Gaugier is lying second. Vico Dragona of Hungary, number 349. Well, mine 787 is the best. She can afford to go as low as around about 9495 if she's to qualify for the final and an opportunity to compete for the medal at the weekend.
Out of the floor, and the full in back out, and of course, Hungary, the home of the great Henrietta Anodi, splendid gymnast, now retired and travelling around the world giving exhibitions. But this really was Anodi's forte, so I'm sure she's been used as a role model for Ildiko. An unusual combination handspring. Barani into flick punch front from the straddle jump. Wherever possible, the gymnasts try now to rebound from the floor, which has springs underneath it. There's the carpet and then a layer of hardboard and then absorbent rubber springs. And it isn't just to provide the gymnasts with rebound ability, but it is to absorb their power so that gymnastics isn't causing injuries to their ankle. It's really a preventative measure so that their tumbling doesn't cause excessive vibration through the joints. But at the same time, of course, it does assist their flight from one skill to another. Looks as though Dragona got through the routine and lived up to her own expectations, which to a degree is the most important thing. Personal satisfaction. Beating yourself is what it's all about.
The great Henrietta Anodi, the silver medalist for Hungary in the 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games. Silver medal behind Lavinia Milicevic, who we are still to see throughout today. Very close indeed, but again it will need some very special help from the judges to keep Vico Dragona of Hungary in the top 8. She seemed to be enjoying herself, relaxing. Coach fully aware that the mistake came very early on in the routine, stepping outside. So the perimeter square.
In the rule book it states that the most important thing is that the gymnasts perform to their capabilities, and in such a case Dragona did. Out of the floor, perhaps scoring 9 and quite contented with her score and her performance.
Woo Young of Korea, the last competitor in this fourth rotation.
Spring 1.5 twisting front first tumble. Whip, whip, whip. Flick, and the twist didn't come off. She looked negative before she ever ran into that tumble. And I think there, if she can't get tumbles on a day where she's got to have the adrenaline flowing for her, she really is working skills out of her league. And I think this really isn't her fault. This is the governing body's fault. The middle tumble, she was nowhere near making. And the last tumble, she knew before she went she could possibly fail. Full twisting front. So Husa Young right out of the league there, 2 falls.
And competition, and Paul, like Marvin, will be watching throughout the day to see whether he stays in the top 8. Andrea Carcaven of Romania in the first of the floor competitions at 2:30 Central European time this morning.
Kakohian, a really tiny gymnast. It's difficult to see exactly how small she is. She's only about 4'9", but extremely explosive. First tumble there. Full twisting double back. And she's going to need to produce that and something big at the end and good artistry to come within a touch of Sharon Miller. And she won't with that. Out of the floor and a whole skill out of the floor. Fell out of the double spin a little. And again, well, out of the floor and out of the final, I would say. Potentially, her artistry and her tumbling is good enough to get her even within the medals. Brilliant gymnast, but desperately underplanned routine. Or she put in an extra step in her run. The final tumble where she stepped out, but she also stepped out and performed a skill out of the area. So she's picked up a fair few penalties. Full twist out of the top and onto the feet and then onto the seat costs him half a mark. So out of the vault final for Buchner. So a pretty disastrous day for him.
And to the beam, Aline de Cremion of Belgium. It's a good opportunity to see some of the lesser known and lower world ranked competitors. Ralph Buchner, floor marks for Karkovian, and first position 9.275, but those scores were to go a lot further as Andrea was only the second competitor to take to the floor. That competition is now led by Shannon Miller as Aline of Belgium waits patiently for the go-ahead from the jury to begin her beam routine.
Here, whilst I have explained the necessity of good jumps on beam, one can see here using her as contrast. Aline's jumps in comparison to the top gymnasts are very weak, and when she comes with a low score, this will be the reason why. The leaps aren't high enough, the leg wasn't parallel, the footwork isn't detailed enough. Much more to beam than just the acrobatic skills. But coped well under the pressure. Not easy for her. Not many gymnasts come out of Belgium these days. They haven't. It's a long time since they've produced a whole team in an international event. Linda Kramer succeeding in her efforts to stay on the apparatus, finishing there with a rather long 1.5 twisting back somersault from the Arab Spring. But she stayed on, and only 8.45, and that really is due to lack of artistry on the jumps.
We stay with the beam, and Olga Yorkina of Belarus.
And immediately we see Belarus or Kazakhstan or Russia or the Ukraine or Latvia. We know that there's a chance that Shannon Miller could be knocked off the top spot, because there are some superb beam workers have been produced in the ex-Soviet Union. Mount established quickly out to one leg, now on with the skills, running front D element. So she's already got some difficulty under her belt. Flick double layout. Bit of a tentative full spin. Good, but certainly not in Zucchina's class. Kiznik it is, isn't it? Kiznik. She's gone. Flicked a handstand. As she opened the shoulders, her back went soft, and she just couldn't maintain the tension required to stay in the handstand. Preparing, obviously, a back dismount. Flicks linked together, double flick. Double back, oh dear. Well, a good technician, but really nowhere near the standard of gymnast to get into the medals, even with her falls. Without her falls, rather. She had a bit of a disaster from the flick handstand, lost self-belief, and that cost her the fall on the landing. Two backflips, the first to 1 foot, the second to 2, an under-rotated double back. She really had no option but to fall forwards. And outwardly not showing the distress she must feel inwardly.
Well, no words from the coach. Cold silence. It's obviously not what she had performed in training. She's putting on a brave face, quite rightly, as Monica pointed out. I think the coach looks more annoyed than young Olga there, to be honest. But that's the name of the game. They, each and every one, athlete and coaching relationship, have their own way of dealing with things. Some likes sympathy, and others like to, well, to be totally ignored and have the cold shoulder, and it's the cold shoulder treatment that seems to be the case there. She's awaiting the marks very patiently, but it'll be disappointing and almost impossible for Olga Yorkina of Belarus to qualify for the final of the beam. One of the most closely contended of all these 4 apparatus And second position, but 8.450. And if you've been with us throughout the morning here on Eurosport, you will know that that's not good enough to put Olga into the magic 8. Sally Wills of Australia, who put some brave performances down later on this morning. And let's see how she took to the beam first thing.
Looking anxious. Many of the gymnasts undergo training to cope with competition. They don't just have physical preparation, but they have psychological preparation. And I think it often goes out of the window when you're faced with that beam, a crowded auditorium, and 4 judges. Oh, stay there. Better 3/10 than a fall. 5/10 for a fall, 3/10, almost no matter how big the wobble is. But the psychological advantage of staying on is tremendous. She really is a lovely gymnast. Just look at those elegant legs, very well prepared. Flick, lay out, flick. And because of the length of her leg, she's restricted in her power and probably her ability to backward tumble. That should have been a change leg split immediately into the gainer flick, but it wasn't. She broke the combination. But if a routine is well choreographed and the gymnast has enough skills, the coach can put several linked movements, so if one fails, there is always another later in the routine. Required elements are a flight element, 2 acrobatic skills, a minimum of B, a mixed series, that's artistic and gymnastics, and a gymnastic series. Double back dismount. Tentative beginning, but Sally, a very capable, skillful gymnast, and beautiful to watch.
Part of a team that's ranked 6th in the world, the Australia women's gymnastics squad, and certainly a growing force within the sport. And I'm sure there are many purists and gymnastic fans that are as pleased as we are here at Eurosport to see the nations of the Southern Hemisphere starting to become world-renowned and pitching and battling against the more well-known and famous Eastern European countries.
And I think they do have a tremendous amount of pressure on them. A, they've got their home crowd. B, there's huge sums of money been invested in sport in general in Australia, most particularly gymnastics. And any sponsor wants mileage for their input into the sport, and any coach wants the gymnasts to prove it. And the young ladies and men in Australia will have been made aware of this, and they really will, besides wanting to turn in their best performance for themselves and their country, they'll want to for the sponsors, so that the pennies keep rolling in.
And hopefully these World Championships being held in Queensland, Australia, will have a huge knock-on effect in the sport in Australia in general, and motivating many a youngster to take up the sport. First position, 8.937, and that's one that will go through to the end of the women's beam. Dina Kochetkova for Russia.
I hope she gets a better deal on beam than she did on floor. Gojian pipping Kochetkova on beam. Really quite unjustifiably. I know looking good isn't everything. You've also got to produce the elements. But she really didn't make any major errors to warrant being left out of the top 3. So far, one quite large wobble, but some fabulous skills. Lovely connection there. Leap into the backward roll, a simple skill, but done so beautifully. And we've already had the full twisting Corbett in there. Just to be cheeky, she's done it in combination. No easy task. Dismount around and flick to one, flick to two, double back. Well, certainly a name to look out for the future. She seems to have rather a bias on her skills on beam, perhaps not using all the groups required. But certainly a very good gymnast, and we'll see more of her in the future. Who knows, on the podium in the 1996 Olympics with the all-round gold around her neck.
And Monica possibly an outsider for the all-around competition here, with the nerves getting the better of a lot of them. We see 9.550 Kochikova go into the lead as we take a short commercial break. Due to look at the action from the early morning highlights package before we return to Brisbane for the live and final subdivision. Elena Polozkova of Belarus, another new youngster and a new name to us here.
Oh dear, and her chances of meeting the final requirement gone altogether. But a very dramatic piece of music and a well-executed pull-in back out, but she sat down out of the floor, so she'll still lose the penalty for falling. Can you believe having too much power out of the full twisting front somersault? One time it was out of the question for any gymnast from any of the Russian states to appear at all flustered or overawed by a situation. But now we see this more and more, because difficulties in training are hitting them like other European nations. And they're a brilliant gymnast, undoubtedly brilliant, but she was either totally confused because she'd never made such a big error before, or totally overawed by the situation of being on an international scene.
Well, a youngster a long way from home in her first World Championship, and it's my belief, Monica, that the occasion possibly getting the better of her, and if she'd not made such a great error earlier on in that performance, maybe she'd have been able to have carried it through.
But so far she was the best natural tumbler that we've seen, even in the live production.
Yves-Marie Poulain of Canada.
Five-meter run permitted, and they're attempting a front walkout, but under-rotated. Front somersault, a very popular mount because it's high ranking, and really all gymnasts can produce a front somersault, and those who have the guts to have a go, it's a really good scoring move, but not many of them can finish it off. Standing front to one leg. It's quite amazing to think that we take a routine like this for granted, because in there are front somersaults and straight back somersaults to one leg, and I'm about to say that it won't meet the requirements. Painful, but I'm sure she's done it before. Every gymnast needs a saddle at one time or another, but it generally happens in training. But I was about to say that in 1976, Olga Korbut produced her first tuck-back somersault. And just think where gymnastics has developed from then. Straight back somersaults, seen two with a full twist today. waiting a long time. She's over time now. 2/10 penalty.
We'll bring you the score from Pilar of Canada as we see the young American, 16-year-old from Cincinnati in Ohio, Amanda Borden.
Arabian double front. I can't believe that some of these girls have got too much power on some of these difficult skills. Two and a half twists. A really startling looking girl. Absolutely loads of personality, and it comes through. She projects that to the audience. Nice changes of mood. Beautiful jump combination and very high scoring too. Well, from the wacky to the elegant, that was great. Loads of personality, bags of artistry, high in skill, and just tough luck that she fell out of the floor on that Arabian double front at the beginning.
That was a great shame for Amanda Borden, a very American routine there. I couldn't picture seeing one of the Belarusian or Ukrainian or Russian girls choosing a piece of music such as this, but the crowd certainly enjoyed it. We did, and Amanda Borden's already qualified for the asymmetric bars final, and she could possibly be the dark horse and one of the rising stars from the American team.
Yes, I think that, you know, to have a piece of music like that is so difficult because not many people can express it as well as Amanda did. And it may well have been extrovert, but it was successful.
Well, let's see what the judges think, bearing in mind that she had that disaster, one has to admit and say, at the beginning of the routine. We'll bring you that score as soon as we can. We return to the beam. And Miura Hanako of Japan.
So far, the Japanese women haven't featured too highly. Maria Kosugi has qualified for one final. But Miura's chance of qualifying on beam out of the window. She'd have found it tough enough to get a really good score on her existing difficulty, but with a fall, she doesn't have any chance at all. And unfortunately, the audience is quite well educated and very noisy during her routine because they sense that she's out of the running for a final place. Double back tuck, slacken the tuck, and a little bit dangerous because her shoulders were forward as she took off, and so she had to sling her hips into the somersaults.
And C in the men's challenge. We stay with the Romanians, Nadia Hatagan, who had a very impressive performance in the asymmetric bars yesterday, coming in fourth there. And she's also seen teammate Lavinia Milicevic rekindle the flame with some marvellous form. And Monica, I have the feeling the Romanian girls could be on a roll at these championships.
Yes, I think a lot depends on the temperament of Milosevic. So I've known and watched her over 4 or 5 year span. And in the gym, she's not the hardest worker. But I think her temperament has a tremendous influence on the team. And she's very positive. But Hattigan, one of the more elegant of the Romanian gymnasts. Good combination, positive, flick layout, flick layout. But despite the fact that in slenderness and line, she looks very similar to some of the Russians. In artistry, the Soviet training has still a great advantage over the Romanian camp. Their balletic work is still lacking, although improving. Good positive combination, nice shoulder roll there. And Hattigan developed wonderful flexibility because she too was one of the tighter gymnasts. That was a very solid routine. Wonderful variety throughout the exercise, just lacking the big finish like a full twisting double back.
I think you pointed out yesterday, Monica, that if Milicevic starts to slack and let things slip through, this could be one of the Romanian girls to step into Lavinia's shoes. Possibly a little more improvement to come in years, and looking to peak possibly in Atlanta at 96, but another star in the making, one has to say.
Oh yes, the talent is there, most definitely, and the enthusiasm, because she attacked
A gymnastics squad as well. Nadia Hattigan, first position on the beam, 9.725, and that guarantees Nadia yet another place in the final. So she will be now in the beam and asymmetric bars finals at the weekend. Welcome back, Svetlana Chortkina, who enjoyed her work yesterday and has qualified for the vault final in 5th position. She now attempts to do the same on the floor.
Good opening was Chortkina that surprised me on the A-bars as well, because she was the first gymnast to overhaul Shannon Miller. Oh, nice combination. Full twisting front walkout. But as Amanda Borden from America suited the jazzy, so Chortkina suits the classical selection of music. Wonderful interpretation to the music, and it counts for so much, having a piece of music that suits the individual. Final tumble, triple twist, and it twinkled. It was a real triple twist. There was no squeezing around the corner. Well, I think that's another one of our 8 qualifiers, Nick.
And it looks like it's 3 out of 3 for Svetlana Chortkina. She is yet another very impressive performer who seems to have peaked just at the right time for these World Championships. Doesn't have a great track record up until now, but has been growing, maturing, and timing it. And with these World Championships in 94, another Worlds in 95 in Japan, then on to the Olympics. This is the time to start to make your mark on the world rankings. And Svetlana Chortkina, 3rd position in the asymmetric bars, and quite rightly pointed out by Monica, overhauling Shannon Miller, and also a 4th position in the A bars. We'll bring you that score as soon as it comes through, as we return to the beam and Charikila Davo of Greece.
Oh, that was such a bold front somersault. It's the best one of the day. What a splendid gymnast. I hope she's got the difficulty to match in the remainder of the routine. With quality like she has and the required difficulty, she would make the final. Double back. But Greece very unexploited really as regards gymnastics. Just a few gymnasts starting to creep onto the international circuit. 2 or 3 clubs now in Nicosia and Limassol. But really the sport of gymnastics is very much in its infancy as yet.
Second position, 9.487, and after the live broadcast, which we started with at 8 a.m. this morning, Central European time, that still keeps Korkina and could be one of the challenges for the all-around competition with the kind of consistency that she has showed us now in the 3 apparatus that she's performed, the 4th still to come for Svetlana. Hopefully if she takes a medal, she'll show us a smile or two as well. Monica seems to be very calm and cool, taking it all in a stride there. Individual apparatus finals at the weekend, and this is what those magic 8 places are being contended for. Mo Huilan of China, number 373, will be next to take to the beam. And here's a youngster that also put on some good performances later on in the morning. Charikila, 9th position for Greece.
Oh yes, I haven't seen the one arm since Shapaznikova, but Huilan Mo really was so unfortunate on the asymmetric bars because she was by far the best bar worker and isn't going to be in the final because she fell off on one of her dramatic skills. No doubt about landing. Oh, I can't believe it. The best gymnast of the World Championship so far, undisputedly in talent, and she just can't produce the goods. Got so much difficulty, and she didn't even need the wretched move that she fell off on. That's so disappointing. Such a superb prospect. Never mind, we've got the all-around to come, and wouldn't it be nice to see somebody from China be overall champion of the world? And if she could get it together, she definitely could do it. A superb gymnast, but yet again missing an individual apparatus final.
Mo Huilan, who went on to qualify for the floor final after that performance, but at 14 years of age, he really is a shining star and really does have a bright future. Possibly a few World Championship nerves But she certainly let some golden opportunities slip through her fingers, and it's the second time we've seen it now, Monica.
Yes, and it is so indicative of the Chinese. Somewhere along the line, they miss out on their psychological preparation, or there's too much expected of them. Because Yang Bo was the same, Li Yifang was the same, Ma Yan Hong was excellent on certain aspects. So something is missing because everything is there. She's very upset, and I would suspect it could be more pressure than we believe.
Well, a youngster who will keep our fingers crossed for in the all-around competition, and if the big guns and the more experienced performers start to let things slip, well, they will know that there are young stars like Mo Huilan waiting in the background to snap on the tails and heels of any error. 9.312, Monica, with that fall.
Oh, it's such a shame. But we do see, I must say from personal experience, we see a very friendly, gregarious outlook from the Chinese, but I think behind closed doors they are very hard on their gymnasts. And I think this is an outstanding pressure that they endure.
Kazakhstan is next, and Anna Zaitseva.
Now that the ex-Soviet Union can be represented by the individual states, we see how much strength and depth they had for their selection of their teams. Zaitseva probably wouldn't have had a look in the United Soviet Union. She might never ever have traveled out of the country to compete in gymnastics. Oof. Boy. Yes, she had to travel to the side of the beam. She only had a haircut on that dismount. I think this is the dismount. It was scary. A long way off, shoulders forwards. And it was only when she landed on the mat that I could see that she was travelling to the right of the beam. Otherwise, she could have hit her head. A bit scary. Obviously, she was too. That's why she moved to the side.
Well, as we've pointed out throughout this competition, it's good to see all the new formed states of the former USSR represented here. And Kazakhstan, well, has yet to find a qualifier in any of the finals for both the men and the women. But it's a good point there made by Monica Phelps that many a young gymnast is now given the opportunity to compete, with only 3 gymnasts per nation allowed, but with 9 new nations now established as fully affiliated members of the FIG. It really does create a lot more opportunity for youngsters across Eastern Europe to take part in world-class competition. Anna Zaitseva of Kazakhstan awaits her score for the beam before we move on to the final competitor in this third rotation, subdivision A, and 5th position, 9.075. Well, these were the second set of scores for the day. Not good enough to put Anna into the final, as Sandra Tomachko of Germany, the last performer in rotation 3 to take to the beam.
double flickly out, but so far choreography really lacking in variety and originality. The turns and the arm actions quite ordinary. Difficult move, side somersault, very difficult to spot. So Tomaszko will be very low down on composition scores. Execution was tidy, difficulty was adequate, but it really wasn't a very interesting routine at all.
That concludes this rotation, ladies and gentlemen.
And that
Gymnasts,
also
please now
concludes
prepare to leave the arena.
our look back at the highlights. This was the very early morning action, and Sandra Tomaszko of Germany, well, again, we see so many brave performances, but as the quality and level gets higher, not quite good enough for the German. So we'll take a short break from the action here in Brisbane, which gives us an opportunity to take a look back at some highlights from the World Championships in 1993 in Birmingham.
How well they've sussed out their opposition.
Please cease. Warm up.
Well, as the host broadcasters, Australian television, are in charge of activities down there, we will quite rightly start with Joanna Hughes of Australia. 18th in the vault and 27th in the asymmetric bars yesterday, so yet to qualify, with another 2 opportunities now about to start for the young Australian.
Well spotted and very high full and back out piked. Good jump combination, half twisting straddle jump from the Arab Spring. Triple twist. That was different. Fly spring, star jump, hex dive roll. Last tumble is going to be very important for her. This could be her entry permit into a final. Good. Well, just let's keep our fingers crossed. It wasn't particularly fast moving. The music wasn't extremely dynamic. I think that choice of music could be a question mark there. But certainly the quality of her gymnastics was excellent. The quantity was more than adequate. And really it's left to the impression of the judges in comparison to what they have already seen on the competition arena. But for my opinion, that's a possibility of a place in the top 8. Good final tumble, double whip into double twist, triple twist at the beginning and full in back out. So she had every area of tumbling required. Forward tumble in the middle.
And of course the host nation, Australia, have yet to find a gymnast in the individual apparatus final. This could be the first for...
That's him right out.
9.662, 4th position, and Australia has found...
I forecast that possibly Rustam Sharapov wouldn't hold on to that lead for long. Dominic Dawes to floor. Awesome Dawson. Let's see if she lives up to her name. Three whips, double twist, front walk out, dubbed 2.5 twist punch front. Well, a bit awesome. Pulling back out in the middle, and she knew where the end of that was. Nice double twist jump. Double spin coming up, that's crucial, good. Must have a balanced routine with gymnastics and acrobatic skills. Still stepped out of that 2.5. Wonderfully explosive, but very clever improvisation out of her tumbles. There were 2 occasions where she wasn't controlled on the landing and stepped out, but disguised the step out. So it really very much depends on how the judges see the landings. I think undisputedly she's going to get into the top 8, and she'll probably end up in the top 4 from the score. But there is one. She jumped from the front into a lunge. And this final tumble, she does also 2.5 step forwards. Cleverly disguised, but nevertheless it wasn't controlled. So for me, I don't think it was good enough to go into the lead. Perhaps 4th place.
Well, this was the greatest that Dominique Dawes did not qualify for, but look at that. The judges liked it, and they're the people who made the decisions. 9.825. First position for the awesome... Well, and Lavinia Milicevic in the beam. Another competitor looking to take top honours away from Shannon Miller in this. Just the qualification rounds for the individual finals.
Yes, I suspect one of the front row spectators will be Shannon Miller. Right beside beam, and if that had been somebody like Shapoznykova or Bosakova, she would have, or Boginskaya, they'd have sat right at the end of the beam, right in line, to try and put off their opponents.
Lin Li of China, the beam. Now the beam currently led by Shannon Miller.
One of the world's best beam workers. And the only person to produce that Healy on beam. Innovated from men's parallel bars. But the pressure on Li Li at the moment, because Mo, the diminutive 14-year-old, fell off and was out of the finals. And so this is China's last opportunity to be represented, and she's blown it too. What a shame. The Yurchenko flick as the vault, innovated by Natalia, and that's the Li Li spin. Well, something tells me the Chinese camp won't be very happy, and I am sure that it must be pressure-oriented. Perhaps the pressure in the gym is greater than at a competition, and when they come out into the field, into the competition, they relax a little.
And that is disappointing for Li Li, just outside the medals a year ago in Birmingham, and very unlikely to even claim a place in the top 8 and qualify in this year's World Championship individuals.
Jamie Hill from Canada to floor. Jamie, one of the new prospects from Canada. Put him back out opener. Surely she can't keep up this pace of work all the way through. Very fast moving, full twisting front walk out. Nice combination there. Into Arab Spring 1.5 and punch front. Good tactical move, because Jamie's conditioning isn't brilliant. She's quite chunky and she hasn't got a beautiful leg line, so if she moves quickly there isn't time for the faults to be examined. Good fast tumbling, very high tempo routine, good musical interpretation. One and a half front punch front, but split legs on both of the tumbles. And pensively Lee suffering the indignity of a 9.25, and that she isn't used to.
Jamie Hill, 14th position, 9.475. But one has to say the floor competition has been possibly one of the most closely contended of them all today. Yuka Ari of Japan, just having a little wobble, beginning.
Bold jump. Any jump on the beam where the back is arched and the quadriceps is stretched means that the gymnast is blind to the beam for a split second, and to rebalance after that is very difficult. So a pike jump there probably won't count. Double back. Couldn't make up my mind whether that was pike in and tuck out or tuck in and pike out. But it was like a mishmash of shape. Neither defined one or the other. Yes, pike in, tuck out, but the pike had slack knees also. A very bold gymnast. She had some brave skills in there. the mountain itself takes an awful lot of bottle.
The one that Scott Keswick will want to put behind him, Yuka Arai of Japan, has not made the magic cut, or the magic 8. And as he pointed out, a brave performance, but the quality is, well, of the highest caliber. Disappointing for the American. We return now to the ladies' floor. One of the newcomers, Podkopayeva from the Ukraine, or one of the rising stars. And the beam, not the floor, I should say.
So far, everything she has done has been from the highest rating of difficulty. It's the second landing hesitancy she's had. That's very hard. Tuck front into jump. Really superb gymnast. A little bit unstable on landings, but I think that's purely lack of confidence. Full in, back out. So in the all-around event, she's in with a shout of a medal with gymnastics like that. But the wobbles she had on a couple of the skills there, probably just enough to keep her out of getting into the final.
Well, we saw Podkayeva for the first time at Birmingham a year ago, where Lilia qualified just for one final in the vault. But she's come back a year later, much more matured, and as we pointed out, a possible contender for the all-around competition. And hopefully the World Championship nerves will be put behind her after these 2 days of qualification, and she can pull out some of her best performances in that all-around competition.
Calls in the background from the Australian fans for Lavinia Milosevic.
Fourth position, 9.687, Podkopayeva. Well, that's a very pleasing score for her. She will be delighted with that, as will the coaches. But this is the defending world champion in the beam, Lavinia Milosevic, who's had a good start to this competition. She was first and second, I should say, in the 2 qualifications yesterday, and now she has just beam and floor to do.
Well, if the omen is anything to go by, she was last to go off in the beam finals at Birmingham, and it was highly unlikely for her to win, but everybody else had done so badly. She seems to be one of those gymnasts who might enjoy going up. The pressure's really on her now. She knows what she's got to do. Couldn't afford that. It's obviously getting to her. She's handling it. Two or three adjustments on those 3 little jumps. But Podkopayeva had an excellent routine, but she had some large wobbles. But of course, that's all she had. Just those 2 large wobbles. Everything else was so steady. And Milosevic, land the dismount, home and dry. Yes, she's in. Where she ranks, we'll have to wait and see, but she's got to be in.
And that will be 3 out of a possible 4 for Lavinia Milicevic. And not the confidence, the poise that we saw in the vault and the asymmetric bars yesterday, but she's on target to make it 4 and 4. And for me now, must be one of the favourites to take the all-around competition if she can maintain this kind of form.
Yes, but content-wise, there are lots of people who are doing more than she is. So she's definitely suspect on being. I think she's working her absolute maximum and still isn't as good as many people. But of course, on the power of vault and bars, it's going to be very interesting. Just have to wait and see what she does on floor. .762, its second position. And Lavinia Milicevic, well, if you look at her results so far, 1, 2, and 2, with her floor exercise to come in the next rotation. And I think one of the key points that you have mentioned, Monica, is that Milicevic and the youngster before her, Podkopayeva, are 2 of the few competitors today who have made major mistakes. They've made little wobbles, like you've pointed out, but no major mistakes at all. And that's what seems to have dictated and kept Podkopayeva and Milicevic on top in the women's beam, which moves the American.
Live.
Well, the warm-up continues. Rotation 3 is just about to start, and that's very interesting, exciting, and it looks like, Monica, someone's had quite a nasty fall in the warm-up.
Oh dear.
It looks to be one of the young French girls.
It is. It's Elodie Lusac. Such a committed, brave little girl as well. We didn't see exactly how she fell, but she has got a bloody nose and a bruised face, but they really ought to leave her lying still.
Can't to say the least.
Well, yes, it was bonus, height and length that scored him those fabulous marks.
Yao Yar of China now just mentally preparing, running through the routine for a last and final time as she takes to the floor. And it's the floor where we'll be seeing Lavinia Milicevic. Dominique Dawes has the best score for the United States of America, with Miller lying second and Gina Gogia of Romania in third position.
And we hope that young Elodie Lusac is recovered, but unfortunately for her, she has to recover after a nasty fall before beam, and that is the most alarming piece of apparatus to have to go to after a fall. And we've already seen her in action, and she's a tough little cookie. There's no way that she would lie down and look so distressed if she wasn't really hurt. So to actually pull herself together and prepare for beam is most unfortunate. Floor not quite so bad because balance and nerves are easier to disguise.
Oh, a slight delay. There's Yao Yar. Waits very patiently and waits for that indication from the judges that she may proceed.
But I think so far the Australian Federation have done a brilliant job of presenting this World Championship, because the entries have been enormous and there have been very few hold-ups really. Step back out of the floor area, 1/10 gone already. So you can say she's being marked out of 9-9. Handspring, 1.5 twisting front. It's amazing as the code is developed how elements are linked together very similar, and many gymnasts end up with similar types of combinations. The white chalk is put in the corners so that the corners are visual to the gymnasts as they travel at speed. It isn't to prevent them from slipping because the carpet is non-slip. It's purely so they can identify the corner. Oh dear. 1.5 full twisting front into punch front. And she just landed with her hips out of line and the somersault went downwards. I would suggest a very, very risky dismount really on the floor. She didn't need the front somersault.
Well, two major mistakes. The first, I think, is coming up now where young Chinese performer steps clearly out over the line. And there is the second. And with the quality really of its utmost, one of the most closely contended apparatus, I feel, the floor over the past 2 days. That's almost a definite non-qualification.
But such a shame because the step out she could have survived. It was good, it was strong, but the mistiming, just unfortunate. On a sprung floor, if you hit it at the wrong angle at the wrong time, instead of it really accelerating what you've already created, it decelerates it. There she landed with her feet in front of her body and her hips downwards, so the minute her feet hit the floor, her trunk went down and she couldn't lift the somersault. There's just nothing you can do about a situation like that, other than don't have it as a last tumble. I think she might change it for the next competition. We'll see if in the all-round competition she changes her tumbles around.
Yes. '31st position, way down. And again, a youngster who will look forward now to the all-around competition. That was her last opportunity to qualify.
But add 6/10 onto that score and she would have been in the top.
Attitude, but disappointing Italian gymnast there, to say the least.
Lilia Podkopieva from the Ukraine, who surprised us with a super beam score, coming in ranking 4th, ready for the finals, despite a couple of wobbles. Yes. Handspring, fly spring, double front. We haven't seen that. We've seen an Arabian double from Amanda from Barron from the USA. Straight, full twisting front. Again, highest possible value on front tumbling there in the women's code. Artistry in abundance, jumps high. But we do need a back tumble to dismount, otherwise she'll be penalised for having all the tumbles going in the same direction. This corner a little bit empty. A heavy weight there, that will be a penalty. Pull him back out, and that's put paid to her chances. But far too long a wait in the corner before the end of the final tumble. And everything was there, absolutely everything. All the ability was there, and just didn't nail the landing. Probably took an extra step. At the first tumble, handspring, fly string, double front. Quite a dance drama presentation. This should be the final tumble, and even if she'd landed it, should have been very close to the line, because she does very long flicks. Yeah, she's tripped over her own foot, actually.
That's such a shame, Monica. It all seemed to be there for me until that last tumble. In stepped Mr. Hesitation, and the whole thing fell apart. At the beginning, it all flowing, it was natural, it was dynamic, and then it was as if it was press play until that last tumble, and then something interfered with the concentration, the mind. And 25th position for Podkopaeva of the Ukraine is disappointing. If she can put that last tumble right, that could have been literally disappear that too, and a 5th position very, very easily indeed. And a youngster I certainly have to admit I've been very impressed with. Just every now and then she lets herself down. It's very disappointing for me, that performance. Well, very important performance to follow. Lavinia Milicevic, that's what the cheers from the crowd are being. She's qualified for every final so far, and this is her 4th and final qualification apparatus.
It'll be interesting. The judges make the decisions, and as I said, that's fine, but I think that it's nice to have conflicting opinion, and as I coach, I, like all, have opinions. She got a 10 in Barcelona, and I couldn't quite see why, despite the fact it was a very fast-moving floor routine. This obviously newly choreographed routine. Two and a half twist punch front, good tumbling, excellent. The selection of music obviously is there disguising the fact that on artistry she is lacking, and I mean on the quality of feel for movement, not on necessarily the quality of performance of it. Triple twist, little step out. Bags of variety, but for me it didn't do a lot at all. I appreciated it, but it didn't entertain me.
And a whole lot of love. The music chosen by Led Zeppelin in an orchestral performance, a difficult one to choose from. It's the American girls, Dominique Dawes and Shannon Miller, in 1st and 2nd position. Now, Lavinia Milicevic has been in sparkling form throughout the competition. She's not been placed outside of the top 3 until now. And it's one certainly I'd like to leave for the judges, but there is no question in the quality of the tumbling from Milicevic. The question is the lack of artistic content, one should say, in between each set of tumbles.
But that's why there are several judges. There's a head judge, an STC, that's a scientific technical collaborator who notates the difficulty of the exercise, and the judges have put her in 1st position.
Which means the Olympic champion, Lavinia Milicevic, 9.837, pushes Dominique Dawes 2nd and Shannon Miller into 3rd spot, but that's not important for now. There are no medals being decided here today, but it certainly gives her that psychological advantage.
Eurosport Live.
And Sunday to a close. The warm-up once again. And every time we see a tumble now, we sort of tend to watch a little closer after quite a nasty little fall for Elodie Lusac. We still have no reports from her yet, but as soon as there is any information, we will keep you informed. The individual apparatus will be live on Eurosport, and we'll be bringing them to you from 11:30 a.m. Central European Time this coming Saturday, and 10 a.m. this coming. Also keep our eyes peeled for Vitaly Sherbo in this fourth and final rotation, as he aims to qualify for his 5th out of a possible 6 individual apparatus finals. Also, Ivanov of Bulgaria and Mizutin will be in action in the vault part of the men's rotation. She's already qualified in the floor, so hopefully that will help her confidence in a qualification that really has seen many of the big guns and top favourites make simple mistakes, and will create some very interesting qualifications, which we will also view at the end of this rotation.
Dominic.
Elodie Lussac, the youngster from France who we saw take that very nasty fall on the floor in her warm-up in the last rotation. She's broken her nose and has damaged her teeth. She's called it a day for today, and rightly so, but the French camper have fingers crossed that Elodie will be back for the all-around competition, which is not till Friday.
Good links, and Joanna Hughes to beam. She's already qualified on the floor. Wouldn't it be great if she could make it a double? I've never noticed the audience so quiet to hear a pin drop. Might be a little short on content. Very clean, well polished, just lacking in continuity and high difficulty skills. But well done, Jo. She gave it her best shot. I think that difficulty would perhaps preclude her from the top 8, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, she's certainly given the home crowd something to cheer about, and is the only member of the Australian team for both the men and the women to qualify for a final at the weekend. And as you quite rightly pointed out, Monica, it really would be a fairy tale come true if she could now make it 2 out of 2. Step back on the landing there, but certainly enjoying this welcomed local.
Overall world title, and you could put your rivals right off the target of what your potential really is by producing under par routines, and I wouldn't put it past Sherbo to do that.
Well, we will certainly be riveted to the coverage from Brisbane in Queensland, Australia, for the men's all-around competition, which starts tomorrow. Both myself and Monica will be back at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning as Joanna Hughes goes into 10th position. And Monica rightly pointed out there, the content really wasn't there to qualify a top 8 placing.
But obviously they're delighted, and that...
Congratulations to Finland.
And here the beam qualifiers. And overhauled is Dawes first, Miller, Milicevic, Kwai, Hatigan, Podkapayeva, Stratman from Germany, and Fabrichinova from Russia. So there's a surprise, the German into the top 8. And then the floor finalists, Milicevic there again, Dawes again, Miller again. Oh, this is going to be a confrontation. Gojian, Kochkova, and Hughes, Moe, and Pishkun.
And that's the delight there for the host nation of these World Championships in Brisbane, Australia. Joanna Hughes, number 304, their only qualifier. Well, I hope you've enjoyed these 2 days of qualifications. Please don't leave us now, because the action has only just begun. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central European Time, for the first of the all-around competition, the men's, with all eyes on Vitaly Sherbo. But from myself, Nick Fellows, and Monica Phelps, it's been another exciting day's action from the World Championships. Championships, and it's goodbye until
It's the Olympic